I have been on at you to talk about how businesses are not using AI properly, but I think a good way to sort of enter that conversation is to talk about the Cloudflare report, which I've not mentioned to you yet, but I'm sure that you're aware of it. It came out that in June, AI bot activity online surpassed human activity. It's at 57% of all online activity now. How many businesses you know of are sort of trying to tune their communications to fit the needs of the bots? Or are they just oblivious to it?
No, there's a lot of conversations around it. They're not very specific. They're more kind of along the lines of we want to do well in AI search with all the AI. So they're not very specific comments. Um, but yeah, the report shows up something that's quite real. There is a lot of AI traffic on the web, but it varies as to what makes up this AI traffic. Um, but there's literally like a lot of crawling and a lot of scraping going on. There always has been, but because it's AI based, yeah, there's quite a lot of activity there. But I guess the question goes back that I often go back to them with is, again, it's still about meaningful traffic. It's about what that customer is doing, and who these customers are. Um, and we could go down rabbit holes here again, Ryan. There is secondary kind of traffic that's quite good. You might have a business where the rankings are being put in another place, and the AI needs to crawl to find those rankings. We already know that Google does a lot of that in its own right, and people see Google as the kind of the source of all truth. So there's some secondary benefits for thinking about it, but really, it's coming back down to the human stuff. Speaking to your customers, what are you uniquely positioned to offer them? You might be using AI to deliver that, but otherwise, how do you speak to your customers in a human way?
And the sense I get from this Cloudflare thing is that it's AI bots scraping to train their models, or stealing, if you want to look at it from the framework of a media entity. The
Mm-hmm.
newspapers and all of the news sources are getting quite sick of it, all the magazines, except for the ones who have signed exclusive content deals with AI providers. Um, but but I think when you look at that, you have to expect it to increase. The more money that has been poured into AI and data centers and all of this speculative investment, it's looking increasingly precarious now, from the business model side. But they're going to have to keep training and hope for a breakthrough in compute. It turns out that Moore's law is well and truly dead, and that for these guys to have any hope of scaling this stuff, there's just going to have to be a massive advance in computing power. But having said that, I'm using AI and what I do at Social Brain. I'm sure that you're using it to some degree at Mad Scientist.
Yep.
And we don't really want to go into how much and how we're using that personally, because that's giving away all of our scaling secrets. I will say though that I have redundancies built in for all of mine, because I'm aware that we're not being charged properly by any of these entities, the American AI systems in particular,
Yep.
to use their services. That if we don't have a way of reverting to do it a human way, we could be hit with massive costs that we have to pass on to clients at some point. And I don't really want to be in that position. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that stuff. Are you building redundancies into your AI use?
Yeah, we're sort of covering a lot of ground there, and learning from what it's telling us about ourselves, which is another. That's another. There's quantum rabbit holes, Ryan, isn't there? Um, but yeah, probably at the moment for more efficiencies, things like keyword research. And look, it's not the most romantic topic, but it is a time consuming thing if done well, and it used to take us a couple of days to do really deep keyword research. To be able to automate that process with using our way of thinking about keyword research, you can do it in 2 or 3 hours and come out with an amazing report and a strategy for a client. That's incredible, to be able to do that. I don't think there's too many agencies passing on the cost savings of that to their clients yet, but we will get there. But it's the knowing where to hit thing too. Like if we didn't know how to program the AI to do the keyword research based on our process, then would have been a different outcome.
That's a huge aspect of what I want to talk about today with how other companies are using AI. I think the only thing I want to mention before we get into the meat of that conversation, is that the Chinese model Kimi came out a couple of weeks ago, and what is really significant about Kimi, there's a lot of debate as to how much of it is based on Chinese models of AI insight and how much of it is just cribbed from the US models. But the Chinese are providing Kimi at 1% of the cost of the American models. And it seems that either they've made quite an advance in their computing power with their chipsets, or that is taking a huge loss off everything. But AI is taking a turn into the more perverse form of economics. No one can quite understand. Either it's a huge bubble that's about to burst, or someone's discovered something completely new in how to create new technologies. I think it might be the former, but...
Well, they're lucky in a way. They're not paying anywhere near as much for electricity as the rest of the world, right? So if we're talking about data centers out of China, that's an advantage they've had for a long time. And look, I think that's probably why some of the big American companies want to diversify where their data centers live, and obviously shorten the time it takes in between, because that's what it's going to come down to as well, is the speed of the result you're getting back, and that's you can see that between, say, Claude and ChatGPT at the moment. No matter what model you're using, ChatGPT is absolutely light speed compared to Claude. Some people are arguing that Claude's doing more thinking, and ChatGPT is not quite doing that level of thinking. But apples for apples, yeah, one's lightning speed. In order to keep that up, they are going to have to start thinking about models and how they're structured and where these data centers live.
So this is a really good chance to jump into what I was going to talk about, how companies are using AI. And I am going to backtrack on what I said about giving away bits and pieces of how I use AI and Social Brain, because I use AI to write video descriptions for YouTube. I have services that I go to create a transcript from edits that I make, and then feed that transcript into typically ChatGPT, and it will just pass it in about 4 seconds and give me a lovely description with chapters and hashtags and whatnot. It's not always right. Sometimes it just makes things up completely. The other day, I posted a transcript in that was too long for it. So it ignored the transcript, it didn't take it in, and it came up with its own video description. It just made up a description, I guess from looking at previous work that I'd done. And it was 75% all right and 25% complete bollocks. You do really have to be careful with these systems.
You do. Did you say, where did you get this from?
I didn't stop to give it the Spanish Inquisition, because that would be a waste of my time. You don't know what you're going to get as a response. But
well, I use that as a bit of a learning, like a bit of a teaching moment for the AI to go, okay, where did you get this from? Oh, I'm sorry, I extrapolated this from the heading based on blah, blah, and blah, blah, which is completely unrelated to what you've trained it to do. Okay, don't do that again. If there isn't anything of context for my specific stuff, then ask me clarifying questions. Yeah. Otherwise we end up in a place that we're both not happy with.
So this is my big bone to pick with businesses that are AI first. It's that there's a lot of businesses out there that have started up since AI has become powerful enough to basically handle what seems to be 80% of their business. And they're offering services that are behind the veil. They're essentially 100% AI.
Mm-hmm.
I have come across a lot of these operations because they've reached out to me, and I have, out of sheer curiosity, engaged with them over Zoom or whatever. And it turns out that there's not a lot of human expertise behind these businesses. They are offering services which involves them basically doing a 5-second AI scan. I'm calling them Potemkin businesses, after the Russian Potemkin village. There's just a whole load of facades, and you can bring people into the town and show them around, and for a second they think it's a real civilization. But it's not. So the best example of one of these that I just found was a business offering leads for SMEs, to any kind of SME. And they suggest that the way they're looking for leads is that they're using an AI to scrape social profiles, and they can give you leads for whatever business you're involved with. And I described Social Brain, and I said, well, I only work with one business from each industry because I don't want to be locked into competition. So I need different industries. And they were like, oh, well, we only give you leads from one industry, and we suppose we can give you like leads from 15 industries, and you can go through them all. I'm like, well, that's not going to be any good to me because that's not how my business generates work. And he sort of said, well, here's some leads for you. Here are 20 Australian medical businesses that have social profiles that suggest that they were doing social, but they've stopped, and they could be ripe to come back and start doing social again. And I was like, you do understand that the reason they've stopped is because it's essentially illegal for medical businesses to do social media now, right? And the guy had a blank look on his face because the AI has spit out this list with absolutely no human context, no legal context.
Yeah. Just a fishing, here's a fishing expedition. And the thing is, you could do a Google search, for a very specific kind of list. It'll give you a list of businesses.
Or I could do that myself, right? I could just ask an AI.
You could do that yourself. You could do that yourself.
To do exactly that search.
You could ask it to do that search, and it'll do a pretty good job. And because it's criteria that you're putting in, then you got to think, well, hey buddy, what are you actually doing for me? Like, what service are you actually providing? If you can't get me to my outcome and get me what I need, better than my own kind of searching. And what kind of leads are they going to be anyway, Ryan? Like,
it's just going to be an advanced form of sort of cold calling, like the Glengarry, Glen Ross leads.
Yeah.
Here's a stack of 60 leads. We want 3 sales by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, that involves me getting on the phone, and no one does that anymore.
Exactly. Or sending a cold email, with coffee in the subject heading, so it actually gets through the spam filters.
And that is part of the point, right? Everyone has been on the human side trying to work out how to game these checks and balances that Google's been introducing and Microsoft's been introducing into their email services. And now they're trying to automate the gamification with AI. And it can create some really interesting circumstances. So what happened was, with that call, I was like, hey, this is not for me. I didn't want to lead him on and waste his time, no matter how much of my time he'd already wasted. And I said, best of luck. You might want to look at your model a little bit. And then 3 weeks later, a link pops up in my LinkedIn from this fellow saying, welcome on board. Here's the link to start using. It's like he's automated the onboarding process, and he's forgot to check the box that said this call was a dead end. It's in complete incompetence. And it's funny. It's like the AI reveals that incompetence to anyone
Yeah.
who's bothering to look.
Yeah, yeah. There's a guy, I think it's called Policia or something like that. I'll find the name, but he's built a business. He's in Silicon Valley. He's built a business, he reckons, that can take you from ideation to launch of your company completely automated. So set up your business name, your website, your social media, your messaging, like you name it. And like you, I thought, oh, okay, cool. Let's see what this thing can do. Little did I know that forever and a day I'm on a nurture sequence of updating me on what it's built now. And it's out of control. I'm like, how do I stop this thing? Stop building things. I can't remember what the idea was that I put in to test it. Actually, no, it was very close to one of my businesses. And then I thought, oh my God, they've just taken this idea of mine and it's just got a life of its own, and it's building blog posts and things for me on this website that isn't even my website, and I have no control over it, and I don't know how to turn it off. What is happening?
I am very suspicious of all these services like Base 10. Will do you coding for you with AI, and it's because I've played around with them. That they're not great. They don't come up with very successful results in terms of the UX, and even the base functionality is not great. But what they are really good at is harvesting people's ideas.
Yeah.
Because you have to give quite detailed prompts about your business model and about your desired client type, and they really look like a one-way venture, and that is them basically getting a hold of business ideas.
Yeah, and look, I've had some success there with prototyping. Like you say, it gets you to focus. You have to really brief it well in order to get a good outcome. So it becomes almost a bit of a companion of, is this model right? What's the customer journey here? Like, it does actually help you focus. And I've got some pretty good outcomes from a prototype stage to then work with developers to say, hey, look, I've actually got this idea. Here's a bit of almost like a wireframe. Here's what I think the customer journey might look like, and then use it as briefing documents. So I've got some good success out of that. But then obviously they're then working with me to build it for real. It's not just a vibe coded kind of spaghetti code thing that then gets launched to the web.
Yeah.
And I have had a few clients come to me recently and ask me to optimize their vibe coded website, which is only one page and has no CMS. Please optimize this for Google. Right, okay, I can optimize it for Google, but I literally will have to give you the prompts to rewrite the content and the whole structure of the website every single time you want to do an update, because you don't have a CMS. Oh, I don't have a CMS? You mean I can't update things? So not only are they a bit of vibe-coded rubbish, and that's probably being a bit harsh because some of them are quite good at least on the front end, but there's no back end.
And there is a real concern at the end of it to what degree you will actually own your concept, which should be an alarm bell for any serious entrepreneurs out there. Before you give away an amazing idea, and let's face it, we all think our ideas are amazing and we need to put them to the test. If your method of testing it is basically a way of sacrificing your idea at the same time, it's not great.
It's not great, and look, there's no perfect solution, AI solution for web at the moment, even though everyone, including Wix, will tell you that it's the perfect process.
Wix has pretty good integration with AI. I will say.
They do, but I had the opposite problem with Wix when I tested vibe coding a website there. I ended up with a really good back end, and I was happy with the content, but I couldn't get the website to look the way I wanted it to appeal to the customer. So I had the opposite problem. I had I felt good because I had a more traditional CMS, but the vibe coding design side of it was terrible.
Right.
I thought, this is not ready yet. And there are a couple of platforms now, you can probably put in the description below, that where you can vibe code and then go to the next stage, where you can then have a back end. So I think that's probably the right way around to do it. But as I say, right now, if you really want to grow using AI on the web, you've got to get the best of both worlds. Use it for prototyping, get your ideas clear. And let's face it, as you know, that's where a lot of projects fail, is there isn't clarity on the brief between the two parties in the first place. If it can help from that point of view, and then you go and develop it for real, that's cool. That's still a step in the right direction.
It's definitely about where you employ the AI along the workflow and how many checks and balances you have for it. Because you can use it at every stage. And I will say that I think the stage of business that I think AI is most dangerous at is the comms stage. People are AI automating all of their outreach and all of their responses and all of their surveys. Don't get me started on surveys. Even when they weren't automated, I just don't think businesses should be using them. They're just incredibly irritating things that businesses in Australia seem to just use like a tick. It's a nervous tick. You buy something and then you get a survey and you ignore it. And then over the course of the next month, you get the survey 5 more times. It's like businesses should learn the only time that a customer's going to reach out after a purchase is if something hasn't worked.
Yeah. It's funny, back in the day, it's just probably when social media was beginning and people were still doing phone outreach. I had an intern call through the Yarra Valley. We were going to put a report together on social media in the Yarra Valley. And actually this guy had the gift of the gab with talking to people. And I said, well, just ask them two quick questions. And yes, we're doing a survey, but don't call it a survey, call it a questionnaire. It's amazing how many people answered the questions just because we didn't call it a survey. And there was only 2 questions. But yeah, I agree. I think the survey and even the contact form, some of these things are dead. Like they're dying a slow death because they're not engaging, they're not interactive, they're not genuinely wanting to get feedback.
And the cynical side of me, also the pragmatic side of me says, it's not the business that's giving me the survey, it's their marketing company. And it's really a way for their marketing company to tell their client, look at the amazing job we're doing. And that's why it irritates the hell out of me. Because this company is suffering, their reputation is suffering because they have a marketer somewhere who keeps bombing their clients with these irritating surveys. But no company in their right mind would send these things out because the kinds of responses that you get, most of the time, they're just not usable if you want any actionable insights. It's very hard to create a survey where people don't feel inclined to either be overly critical or overly complimentary. And if you want any nuance, it's just not the way of doing it.
Well, it's disingenuous. I mean, have you been asked recently, like when you pay? Because I was at the airport in Sydney and I tapped my card to pay for some gum, and I got asked, "What's the customer service like today?" on the thing before I could even pay. And I actually said to the guy, "You're amazing." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "You're amazing. I'm going to tell you to your face. I'm pressing 9." And he said, "Oh, that stupid thing." So we had a better interaction, kind of having a bit of a conversation about the survey that was annoying than the survey itself,
But again, this is a company where the employees have registered that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And they've probably told their bosses.
Right.
And the company hasn't done anything. And now this poor guy has to kind of make jokes about it all day long.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reflect well on the company.
And he was actually good.
It does not.
That's the other thing too. I wasn't just being a douche by saying, "Oh, you're amazing." I could see that the way he was interacting with the customers and everything, he's very good at his job. And I thought, okay, well, I'm sort of picking my audience as far as saying you're amazing, and he'll probably go along with the joke, whereas many other people wouldn't. But yeah, it's an interesting space we're in. We were going to talk about agencies, weren't we, too, about their approaches. Is that something you want to cover today?
Well,
or you
just how AI is being used in marketing, but comms is a particular area that really does get me going. Whether it's by agencies or by the actual people at the top of the companies. It's hard to discern that nowadays. Well, there's one example that I want to talk about before you take this where you want to take it, and that is an entrepreneur who was I don't want to give away who the person is, but they were reaching out to meet with me, and someone in Melbourne, and they sent me a long email about having a coffee, and the email had bulleted talking points in it, and I was like, oh, you've got either an intern or AI writing lead emails to people that you've met in person. So that initially it just leaves a really bad taste.
Yeah.
And the content of this was, it's like, during this half-hour coffee talk, we're going to talk about kintsugi. And this stuff is another sort of bear bug of mine. People using Japanese phrases and thinking, oh, it just makes concepts so much more interesting. And I wrote back, because he knew I'd lived in Japan.
Yeah.
And I told him I was there for 20 years. I was like, oh, kintsugi, that's funny. I just think of the pottery when people talk about kintsugi. I don't think of, years of failure with gold put in the cracks so that you get stronger as a person, as a metaphor. I wrote that very succinctly. I was like, this is funny. Then I get a response back in 5 minutes with the bulleted agenda minus the kintsugi talking point. Like the AI has read it as a criticism of what we're to talk about and removed it from the talking points. So the reason I know this was AI is because I kind of suspected it immediately. And when I did meet this guy for a coffee, I said, you didn't have to be so sensitive about the kintsugi. And he just looked at me like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. That is possibly the very worst way for an entrepreneur to reach out to people.
Yeah.
If you automate all of your contact and thinking to the point where when you meet the person in real life, you don't know what they're talking about. It's just, he's an absentee landlord in his own company.
Well, good on you for replying, because I actually, up until you said the kintsugi part and you replying and getting that, I thought we were talking about the same person, but maybe it's just something that's happening out there in the networking space. But
well, I think what I'd like these little chats to be is a way of addressing the technology. I don't really want to do character assassinations.
No, but
and if these people are watching, I would love it, because they could get some honest feedback that they won't get in surveys. For instance.
Well, I had a similar experience, only that the guy is a specialist in the very thing that he was trying to deliver to me in the emails after we met very, very briefly. And these networking groups quite often say, don't spam. And it's like, well, the definition of spam's probably changed a little bit. If it's an AI messaging nurture sequence that you're on, is that spam? We did meet in person. I did say I wanted to catch up with him for a coffee. But I haven't actually replied to him, because after about the third or fourth of these nurture sequence emails that are supposed to convince me that he's good at what he does because he's delivering the very service, essentially spamming me in the process, I haven't replied, because I thought, this is not my people. I love people who are into technology, but I'm not. I'm not into throwing out all courtesies and all values in the process. So that I have responded to other people's messages in the past, but with him, I just went, I don't know where to start. So you're just not going to hear from me. to make of that what you will.
I mean, and this, I think, cuts to the core of particularly where SMEs need to be careful when they're doing marketing. It needs to be human.
Yeah.
The final touch point needs to be human, and that has a different meaning across all of the different ways that we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
If it's by email, the entrepreneur needs to know what's if it's automated, needs to know the content of the automated email, and needs to probably read the emails of the people that he's meeting with for a coffee.
Yeah.
If it's a video and you're using an AI avatar, which I strongly disapprove of, you need to know exactly what that AI avatar that looks exactly like you and speaks in your voice is saying.
Yeah.
So that when you meet someone at the bar, you can actually respond when they have a comment about your video.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's the surest way to lose business.
Yeah.
You're up to the point where someone has come through the funnel.
Yeah.
They're about to convert because they've engaged with your content, and you just give them that blank look like, I don't know what my doppelganger is saying online.
Well, and it's sad to think that that in the future, because of some cognitive overload, that we're not able to take on that context for that meeting, and lose all meaning for building the relationship. Taking the time to look at someone's website and think about it, or to have some look at their LinkedIn, or have some context before you have a conversation with them, that's all part of building the relationship. And if you're outsourcing all of that to your AI, and 5 minutes before you're having the coffee, you're going, I better have a quick scan of Ryan's stuff here, because I better know something. Well, that's way less meaningful than someone who's actually had a bit of a thought process and maybe read your stuff and talked to a friend about it, or talked to a colleague about it, and has a story about, hey, mate, it's connecting those dots, which sets the relationship right in the first place. And hey, if AI can, I don't know, maybe there's something we haven't even thought of that hasn't even been invented yet. But if there's a way to facilitate that, I'm all ears. But yeah, that's a bit of a worry.
I think there are certain ways in which AI is used which is really only good for corporate CEOs.
Yeah.
If Mark Zuckerberg has his digital avatar out there saying things, and he's transparent that it's a digital avatar, no one expects to run into him down at the pub and have a chat. He doesn't even need to know.
Yeah.
But if you are running a business with 80 employees and you're in Melbourne, and you've got an avatar out there saying things for you, I think you need to have a good hard look at what you're doing, because it simply won't convert, and you're more likely to lose more customers than you gain. It's much easier if you get online and put your case and talk about your business and talk about how you see the industry and the economy in person.
Yeah.
And it's also much more persuasive. The level of conversion is much higher.
Yeah.
And I don't know that any degree of AI fluency will ever change that. I think that I could be an avatar now, and I could have had my AI analyze 400 hours of me talking online, and it still wouldn't be as much use as it is with me umming and ahhing in person right now. People will respond to it differently, and you see it in the level of conversion.
Yeah.
It's not hard to look at the data in a meaningful way and see why AI in video doesn't work as well as humans in video.
No, and one of the more compelling videos I've seen this year, which I was surprised that I was still watching after 5 minutes, was a conversation between Bernie Sanders and Claude. And he was asking Claude a bunch of questions, political questions, moral questions, looking for what it would say, and even asking it for future scenarios. And it did an incredible job of responding to him, and he was fascinated. And I think that was the only reason I kept watching, was because I was looking at his facial expressions and his reactions to what the AI was saying, and just looking at him coming up with questions. He had some questions on the page that he wanted to go through, but he asked a couple on the fly, as you do in any interview. So it was actually quite fascinating, and applying it to what you were just saying there. You know, if you're interviewing the Ryan AI and videoing that, would that make for good viewing? Depends on what stage of the training process you're in, but if it was in the early days, you'd be like, no, Ryan, you don't think that. You should think this.
Well,
or I don't believe this.
You'd have to build safeguards into your avatar, right?
Yeah.
And would it either end up being too conservative or completely irresponsible?
Yeah, yeah.
In some way or another.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend in Tokyo who works at a large tech company, and he was telling me how they were trying to replace some functions within the company with AI. And he said the problem that we keep coming up against, and this company has its own very advanced AI, he said the problem that we keep coming up against is that the AI has no sense of responsibility. And we can't teach it responsibility. It can be right.
Right.
And it can do what it's told, and it can pass information, but it never feels culpable for anything.
And it doesn't have real skin in the game. Yeah, literally.
And for instance, if my AI had trawled through all of my emails and found this example that I was talking about with the kintsugi, it could have just said the name of the guy.
Right.
I don't want to say the name of the guy.
Yeah.
But the AI might well have just blurted it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And seen nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. That's true. And yeah, I mean, even within the confines of a project or a, you know, an app or whatever it is that you're developing, there's an incredible amount of context that has to be put into that, and then refinement. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of doing that to make sure that it's good. And
good has so many meanings in the context of an AI, right?
Right.
Like it could be in terms of responsibilities, I was just saying, or it could be in terms of creating executive summaries of what it's talking about and sending them to the owner of the avatar, the human. How good would it be at doing that?
Yeah.
And would it be good at prompting that person to actually read that stuff so that when they do meet people in real life, they have a vague idea what people think they've been saying?
It's good at the functional stuff. Like I had Claude gather up some context for a client the other day and send to one of my team, send them a Slack message before a meeting. And I was in the car at the time, so they're a bit confused because it was coming through my account. I just wanted to see if it could be done. That was just a thought experiment, just to see, okay, can we execute this?
But that's got to be the simplest form of communication, right? It's top down. You're the boss. You're giving an instruction, and it's got a discrete goal. You want people to go to a meeting. That shouldn't be complex for an AI to do that.
No, and I was actually quite pleased with how it summarized things. It was grabbing things from different areas. It was even going into our Xero account, going to our emails, a Trello board. And I was actually quite happy I was quite chuffed with the summary.
So your AI was accessing your Xero account and displaying this information for the people in your company?
Just pulling out numbers for one specific person before a meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, it was in the Xero. I've had it going in the Xero and actually doing things. Like
you're not worried about it divulging numbers that you don't want to divulge?
No more than someone hacking into our account and grabbing that information, you know, or going online and grabbing a tax return, or really, it's no, not really. There's not enough information that I was giving it, you know, for it that was looking at really for it to be any issue.
Right, so it's not going to start telling people what their colleague's salary is or something.
No, and it was internal as well. Like if it was an external thing, I might have had a different approach to it. But
right.
No, for me, it's kind of a case of, okay, what can this toy do? What from a productivity standpoint, what am I prepared it's a bit like a lot of the social media discussions as well, and what you share with the world. What am I prepared to what doors am I prepared to open up here for the sake of productivity? Am I happy for it to go through and crawl on my Google Drive? And I mean, everyone's got Google Drive hooked up to one AI or another. All this sort of context. I did start out experimenting with it on my home machine here and just giving it files on the machine, and then I thought, why not open it up and have a look at everything I've got and start summarizing. And I know you've got different approaches to these things than I do. I've got a bit more liberal probably recently, just because of trying to squeeze the productivity out of it and looking for ways to just streamline things, and things that probably humans in the business shouldn't be doing anyway. So it's more that in that thought experiment stage.
I approach it in a very siloed way. Like when the Atlas browser was released, I tested it on an old computer. I didn't give it any of my credit card information.
Oh yeah,
because I don't know if you remember that or if you played with it. But
I do.
I think it's discontinued now.
Yep.
It lasted a few months, but basically it could make purchases on Amazon for you, and it could do all the sort of stuff automatically.
Yeah.
There was an Anthropic and a OpenAI version released sort of back to back.
Yep.
I have a very low trust threshold for that kind of technology.
I've got a line there as well with that especially. I actually went on and thought, oh, this is rubbish. This won't last. And I didn't.
There are a lot of people online sort of musing about how it was incredible to see their cursor moving around and doing things for them. Whereas I look at that and just go, no way. That is a nightmare for me. That's like, it's almost like the, it's the ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
Come to life.
Yeah. I
have no place for that in my work life.
I've actually turned the corner on that a little bit. I was actually looking at, that movement around the screen as a teaching moment. Like, hey, how do I change my chart of accounts to represent blah? Or how do I merge these two contacts together? Now that's something that I could Google and probably go and search myself, but it's interesting to watch the computer go through the process and watch it go through the process. And then sort of for next time, I know I'm only 3 clicks away from getting the result. Would I have it continually do that all the time for me? Probably not. But never say never. Like the power of where this is going, there could be some things here that we just never, we look at it and we go, well, why would we ever do that ourselves? Let's just let the machine do that. Like, it's probably a bit of an extreme example, but obviously we used to do our books, our literal books, and then we kind of allowed a software program to hold all of that. And yes, it's in the cloud and it's encrypted, but I don't know.
But the cloud is just someone else's computer.
Someone else's computer, and that information lives on multiple servers around the world. It's not just in one space. So yeah, I've become a bit more liberal on this recently and just thought, well, it's all encrypted. You can, if someone's really out to get you, they'll get you. And there's probably worse ways that they could get me than me sort of letting the AI experiment and do a few things on my computer. It's early days. Who knows what we'll accept and what will be okay. Like, fast forward 10 years, what are we going to be okay with? Especially in that productivity sense. Like, if something's literally saving you time and does a bloody good job, why would you sit there and manually do it?
Yeah. No, I do feel the sort of guarded optimism about aspects of AI that I think you're a lot more bullish than I am, but
yep.
I try to learn. I'm certainly interested in the economics of it.
Yep.
like looking at the business model and the technology and how it scales.
Yep.
How I use it personally, like I said, I'm only using it for functions that I can build in redundancy for.
Yep.
And I like playing with it. I've made a few promo videos that use exclusively AI.
Yep.
And that's been an interesting process, because I have worked with animators in the past, and doing a 60-second hand animated video is a sort of a months-long process normally.
Yeah.
But I can do something similar in 3 days now, from concept to delivery.
Amazing.
It doesn't have the same sort of artisanal qualities as the hand animated one.
No.
And obviously it's putting a few people out of work. Line producers and compositors and other people. I can just do it all myself now, from strategy to delivery.
Yep.
But the client saves a lot of money and can get it so much faster.
Yeah.
So I do see the benefits of AI in lots of different respects, but it's a kid gloves kind of thing for me. Like, I don't want to do anything where I could endanger clients in any way. So I don't let AI play with work email.
Yes.
Emails that come to me from clients, I look at them as they're siloed. No one should ever have any access, including Google. I just don't want them reading that stuff.
Yeah. No, it's good to be cautious, because the other side of it is you don't think something through, and then it's before you know it, the cat's out of the bag. And when it's your livelihood, your reputation, that's definitely something you want to be thinking about.
It's not so much for me, but if just little things about clients' business models and stuff, if that were to get out, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not worried, because I don't write anything in emails that I wouldn't be comfortable with people reading anywhere.
Yeah.
But I do want clients to think they can be frank about how they're operating their businesses and stuff with me in mails.
Yeah, look, I was on a call a month ago or so with a lawyer, and I had my Read AI running from the moment the meeting started. And before I could even say hello, he was like, switch that off. He didn't want the call recorded. And yet he was providing...
Well, lawyers would not.
And yet he's providing me with a service. But he said, no.
Yeah. I don't like it. When I'm in a group Zoom call and someone's got an AI recorder operating, I do not like it.
Well, he said, turn that off.
If you want to know what's happening in the meeting, join the meeting.
Yeah, well, he was a bit abrupt about it. And I, being so liberal with this stuff, was a bit taken aback. And I asked him.
Right. Yeah, there's a way to say it, right?
Well, yeah, but I asked him why so serious? And he said, I literally have sat in, in court and given either, facilitated someone's evidence. That's all AI, out of these chats. And he said, I've also been part of really forensic business investigations where I've actually seen where a lot of these AI conversations go. Because obviously if someone wants to subpoena your records, well, I think a lot of people just still think, well, that's just my files. I'll just, here you go, here's my files. But I think we all know, well, it's your laptop, it's whatever's on your laptop, whatever that, records are, emails, AI conversations, it's all, and if we've got it running 24/7, it's like, well, here's all the crimes I've committed, and I've gathered the evidence for you.
I mean, if you do think about it, you know how lawyers, there are certain things that if they hear their client say those things, then they're legally obligated to report. And some lawyers in person with no AI running would say, now think very carefully before you answer this question. But if that's on record with their voice saying that, that's probably tantamount to breaking the law. They're basically telling their clients not to divulge what they should be divulging.
Well, I was also... it's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking, on reflection at the end of the call, I was thinking, he really needs an email thing that comes through before. So please, no voice, no AI recorders.
Yes.
I know some...
Because it is pretty much bog standard now. Everyone's using them.
That's right. I know some communities have that. That's their community rules. There's no AI recorders, especially in a case where there's a group workshop going on or something like that, where the people in that group could potentially on-sell the material of what's going through that course to someone else, or people feeling comfortable expressing their views, then they're not going to go elsewhere. So yeah, I get it. And there's another rabbit hole. We've gone down another rabbit hole, Ryan.
So going back to the lawyers for a moment, I know that lawyers are really feeling the heat with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that they're most feeling the heat is the rise of the self-represented litigant. It has clogged up Victorian courts like nothing before.
Yeah.
Because all of these people now think that they are lawyers due to their access to AI and how they can get AI to spit out, hot takes about their position.
Yeah.
And all of these self-represented people, their cases take 10 times longer.
Yeah.
So the more of them that go into court thinking I can save myself $10,000 here.
Yeah.
The courts are really, really taking a not very charitable look at that now.
I can only imagine how many government bodies, like your local council, people writing Claude letters, getting out of their parking tickets and whatnot. I'm sure that there's a lot of these sort of AI written letters that are coming through, and people are sitting in these chairs.
I think it's worse than that, though. It's people turning up for like child custody cases and representing themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And their partner has a lawyer.
Right.
And that lawyer spends longer correcting your supposed knowledge of the law than they do arguing their case.
Yeah. I thought that might happen to my accountant last year, because I went to the accountant after doing a lot of ChatGPTing of my situation, right? And I thought, I'm going to be very careful with how I approach this. But I basically went to the meeting with a bunch of bullet points. And I used them to ask questions, because I thought, well, I'll just be a more informed client, and we'll have a more productive meeting. What I found was that as I went through each question and each point, there's two accountants in the room, that virtually agreed with everything that I had come to the meeting with. I was probably more seeking answers for myself and utilizing ChatGPT at the time, and and I went in. I went in through every point. I gave it a lot of context, probably more than I should have given it, and it came out with some great advice and some bullet points and some questions that I could ask. And as I was sitting with two accountants and going through it, I was quite pleasantly surprised when I started getting yeses and nods and, oh, that's a good question. Yes, that's right. Yes, you should do that. There wasn't really that much input. I think I got maybe one piece of input that was not on my page, and I did walk out of there quite satisfied with myself. And I was thinking, okay, that was a very, I thought, productive meeting, in that I got confirmation that I was on the right track. But should I really have come up with all of that stuff on my own with ChatGPT? What am I paying for? I think back to your point about the people going to court with representing themselves. There's some dangerous stuff that's being experimented with there.
So that is sort of the flip side to what I was saying earlier, which is there are all of these sort of marketing businesses out there that are pretending to offer services, but the humans behind those businesses don't have any expertise.
Yeah.
But in your case, I'm sure that your accountants are qualified CPAs and they know what they're doing, but they sort of owe it to themselves to work out a way to represent their knowledge and intelligence in a way so that when someone comes to them with an AI checklist, they look like they're bringing something to the party.
Yeah, and I think there's a context piece, that very, very busy services, whether it's accountants or lawyers or agencies, you're the best advocate for your own business and you care about it more than anyone. If you're willing to take the time to delve into those issues and get those answers and come up with those bullet points, that's probably more time than your accountant is willing to spend on understanding everything about you. So it's a good exercise because you're actually getting into you're getting your hands dirty with your accounting and the strategy for your business. But yeah, it would be nice if there was some other way. I don't know, maybe there should have been some way of the accountant can engage with me to get me ready for the meeting or something. That can, so, and then they've actually got some answers, questions, clarifying questions that they've asked me before the meeting so we can have a great meeting. Otherwise it feels like every meeting's exploratory or it's based on a couple of numbers on a page that might need more of a story to it.
Now, abrupt, but I think there was one more topic that we were going to hit today before we call it, and that is agencies poaching clients with the assistance of AI automation.
Yes.
Now, the way that I see this happening a lot, because I deal primarily with YouTube, is bots spamming my clients' content with, hey, great content, but you know what you should do properly? We can give you an audit. It's that kind of level of just, silly throwaway stuff. But you've had experience with it recently, which is a lot more elaborate and kind of irritating.
Well, it's the reason why for many, many years we didn't put our clients' logos on our website. But there has been and still is a practice of going to an agency website, looking at the testimonials or the case studies, or in our case the logos, and going to those businesses and saying, hey, your SEO is no good, or finding an issue and driving a wedge and saying, we'll do it instead. Now, look, it's been going on for years that people do that. And I don't know how effective it actually is because I've never actually done it myself. But I did witness someone, I was actually sitting in the business when this business development person came in and stood at the counter and started bad-mouthing my company because they had decided that because that company's logo was on our website, that it was okay to approach them. And it was everything from where our business is located now to how great their AI SEO service was, blah, 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 blah. And the person who was talking to them started to go, shh, shh, like this kind of thing, leaning forward, not realizing that I was sitting there, right there, listening. And I thought, wow. I thought, who does this? And this is what led to this conversation, because I talked to you and I said, who does this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And what results do they get? I mean, have you had any experience with this yourself?
No, not to that degree. I mean, it's real sort of, it's like buzzards, that they're just nasty characters when they behave like that.
It's not like is it like ambulance chasing? It's not the same thing, but it's
your clients are not ill. They're just being told that they're ill.
Well, that's the thing. It's driving a wedge, and the example of the one where I was listening, where they walked in, I have to say that they got the wrong person on the counter, because it's one of the two ICs at the company, and knew all the intricacies of it.
A loyal client, yeah.
And actually defended us. So thankfully.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many, there was another one of our clients that actually approached us, and whose logo is also on our website, and approached us and told us that they'd got this report from another agency, and there was a whole meeting created out of that. So even though that's a loyal client that's getting great results, there was enough doubt in their mind, because they'd been approached, for them to bring it up in a meeting.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder, well, maybe it does work. Maybe that if you create enough doubt, you get. Well,
it certainly just makes things uncomfortable for you, and it's a time waster for you, because you have to dedicate time not to servicing the client, but to assuaging the client's concerns.
Yeah.
I don't have much of a sense of humor about it, and I imagine it's possible that some of my clients think I'm a bit blasé when they get sent these fishing expedition mails or comments.
Yeah.
And I just go, oh, that guy's just a numpty. That's basically that's all I do. It's like, I'm not dedicating any of my mental bandwidth to it. But then I just sort of say, look, you've got, this many thousand organic views this month, and know that you've got X number of people who have come in this month and have signed up because they said they saw your videos. So,
and you
can believe the phishing email if you want, or the phishing comment, but it's a waste of everyone's time, I think.
And you've got the results to speak to that, and probably what you do is a bit more transparent, a bit easier to understand, I think.
That's where it gets insidious, right? Because clients, no matter how much time they spend reading your SEO reports, don't really understand the nature of SEO. And it's because it's a movable feast, right?
That's right.
It's hard to put your finger on what is happening at any given moment.
That's right. And that's where these guys take advantage of that, and can tell them, if you haven't educated the client to the point where, like this one, where they can kind of stick up for you, that there can be a wedge driven there if you haven't done your work on educating them, or they're not willing to participate in the conversations in a meaningful way. So we're lucky that through that process, and each time it happens, we don't lose any clients. But I imagine that other agencies, that this happens to them, that they might lose a client or two.
But regardless of that, you are losing time and bandwidth of your own and of your staff, and it's not excusable behaviour.
No.
If you want to get a client, do it on the merits of your work.
Do it on the merits of your work, and it's funny. It is frustrating, but I do always say to my team, in the interest of being positive, I say, well, this is an opportunity to educate the client about what we've done, and why they think maybe their things aren't going well, or why they believe this. And so we'll do everything from explaining, hey, this is what agencies do. It's not a great practice, but they approach each other and they find a reason, or find something that's stylistically different, or and often just create things out of nowhere that aren't even that important. Oh, your heading's not long enough, or it's too short, or it's you only have to find one thing, because SEO is a bit of a rabbit hole to sort of put that doubt in people's mind. The worst is if they've already got a bit of doubt in their mind because of something that's happened, and this has happened quite a lot recently in legal and medical professions, because Google's been doing so many algorithm updates. Rankings have been fluctuating, so if you get into the client's head at that in those periods of time, then they're more willing to go, hey, yeah, actually our rankings have dropped, and they sort of tell themselves the story that it's because your work isn't great. It's it's not because of a legitimate algorithm update where Google's targeting medical and legal professions.
What I can say about these scavengers is that they tend to sell services that are vanity metric driven. And
Yep.
I've heard about people who have been conned into leaving their agency, whichever aspect of marketing it was,
Yep.
and then getting one of these people who sort of did their spam expeditions, their comments, their cold calls, who sowed the seed of doubt, and then what they end up getting is 3,000 views from an Indonesian farm or from a bot farm.
A bot
And
farm. Yep.
the agency that they've got now says, look, we told you we could get you 5,000 views, and we did. And what they find is it guts their entire content strategy going on, and
Yes.
they don't get any conversions from it because none of the real people who used to watch their content watch any longer.
Yeah, pollutes the water, and that's the thing. I wonder if you set the relationship off, like with any client, where you're willing to use those tactics to get them on board, where your values actually lie, and what effect that has on the long-term relationship anyway.
Yeah.
And I hope that businesses see that, that why you guys, and that's what we usually explain to the clients. The fact that they're approaching you isn't great. They obviously don't have other ways to get their clients through more organic means or referrals or whatever it might be. Or their own
I
digital
see
marketing.
a lot of rolled eyes and people sort of the doubting Thomases when I say this, but 50 real views, 50 organic real views that are targeted at your most desired customer or client base
Yep.
are worth more than 10,000 views that are just sort of out there with the wrong targeting, whether that targeting be fake or just incorrect.
Totally.
With video, it converts so effectively that 50 real views can
Yep.
equal 2 conversions.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to keep thinking about, the bottom line. They have to get it into their head that the quality of their content and how they come across, it only has to convert one person, one video.
Yes. That's
And then
right.
it's paid for itself 100 times over.
Yeah.
It's not a game of numbers in that respect. Like
Yep.
10,000 is not better than 50. There's a qualitative aspect to it.
There's a brand play there, with and a thought leadership play that is at that organic level is way, way more important than any large numbers that you can get in. If you can get the best of both worlds and you've got large numbers and it's all quality, fantastic. That's great. You've hit the jackpot, and that's what you want long term. But
I can guarantee that if there's anyone out there who's soldiered through over an hour of this crap with us, they're going to buy whatever we're selling.